Sometimes the most revealing moments between two people aren't the grand declarations or the carefully planned conversations. They're the quiet ones that slip out when the cameras are rolling and one person suddenly realizes the other has drifted somewhere else entirely. That's exactly what happened on Live with Kelly&Mark when Ripa looked over at her husband and, with the easy familiarity of almost 3 decades together, simply asked why he was looking at her that way. She already knew the answer. She could feel it. Mark Consuelos wasn't listening. Not really. And in that small, ordinary recognition, something larger opened up for everyone watching. Kelly had been talking about a story she'd read, something about brain activity in hospital patients near the end of life. It was the kind of conversation that could easily slide into deeper territory: life, death, the strange beauty of the human mind. Mark sat beside her, eyes on her face, the picture of attentive partnership. Until she realized the look wasn't quite right. The focus had slipped. "I've been married to you long enough to know when you're not listening to me," she told him, the words carrying both amusement and the soft weight of long experience. He had moved on. His mind had already left the room. And she was left trying to figure out where it had gone. What followed was pure Kelly&Mark. Mark admitted, laughing, that he had been thinking about lunch. Specifically, whether he should have ordered the chicken breast instead of the salmon. The audience laughed. Kelly laughed. And then she doubled down with the kind of observation that only comes from living the same life, side by side, for years. She knows his tells. She can read the exact moment his attention wanders. She can almost feel the shift in the air between them. But the part that stayed with so many viewers wasn't just the on-air tease. It was the casual revelation that this happens at home, too. 99% of their conversations, she said, carry that same quiet drift. At least on the show, from 9 until 10, she asked him to pretend. It's not that hard. There's something deeply human in that request. Not angry. Not wounded. Just the gentle, familiar plea of someone who has spent a lifetime learning the rhythms of another person's mind and still sometimes finds herself talking into empty space. What makes this moment land so differently is how ordinary it feels. This isn't a dramatic confession or a public airing of grievances. It's the kind of small friction that exists in nearly every long relationship. The partner who zones out mid-sentence. The one who starts planning dinner while you're still explaining something that mattered to you. The person who loves you deeply and still, sometimes, is somewhere else entirely. Kelly's ability to name it out loud, without bitterness, says as much about the strength of their bond as any anniversary tribute ever could. She didn't pretend it doesn't happen. She didn't soften it into something more flattering. She simply held up the truth of their everyday life and let the audience sit with it. And audiences did sit with it. Many people watching later said they recognized themselves in that exchange. The wife who can tell when her husband's eyes have gone soft and distant. The husband who suddenly realizes he's been thinking about something completely unrelated while the person he loves is still talking. That flash of recognition, of being seen, of being known that thoroughly, creates a strange kind of intimacy between the people on screen and the people at home. There's a particular kind of chemistry that develops when two people work together after years of already sharing a home, children, and a private language. Kelly&Mark have that chemistry in abundance. Their conversations often feel less like co-hosting and more like the continuation of a dialogue that started long before the cameras turned on and will keep going long after they turn off. The teasing, the eye rolls, the sudden seriousness that can appear in the middle of a joke. These aren't performances. They're the natural overflow of a relationship that has never been tidy or carefully curated for public consumption. When Kelly calls Mark out for drifting, she's not diminishing him. She's affirming something more important, that she is still paying attention. After nearly 30 years, after raising 3 children, after navigating careers that pull them in different directions and then bring them back to the same desk every morning, she still notices the exact second his mind leaves the room. That kind of attention is its own form of care. It also reveals something about the way long relationships actually work. The fantasy version of marriage often imagines 2 people who hang on every word the other says, who never get distracted, who remain endlessly fascinated by the sound of each other's voices. The real version is messier. Real love includes the moments when one person is talking about something meaningful and the other is quietly debating lunch options. Real partnership includes the decision to call it out gently instead of letting resentment build in silence. Kelly's request that Mark at least pretend to listen during the show carries a quiet wisdom. She's not asking him to become a different person. She's asking him to meet her halfway in the 1 hour of the day when their private life is on public display. From 9 until 10, give me your attention. Outside of that, we both know how this works. There's something almost protective in that boundary. The show is their workplace. It is also the place where millions of people watch them navigate marriage in real time. By asking Mark to stay present for that hour, Kelly is safeguarding both the professional space and the emotional one. She's protecting the version of their relationship that viewers get to see, while still allowing the fuller, more imperfect version to exist at home. Viewers often respond to these moments because they feel like permission. Permission to acknowledge that even the couples who seem most in sync still have days when one person is talking and the other is somewhere else. Permission to laugh at the small failures of attention without treating them as evidence that something is broken. Permission to believe that knowing someone's tells, knowing the exact look that means they've stopped listening, is its own kind of intimacy. Mark's response in the moment mattered too. He didn't get defensive. He didn't try to convince her she was wrong. He simply owned the drift and shared the mundane truth of where his mind had gone. That willingness to be caught, to be known in the middle of a distraction, softens the entire exchange. It turns a potential point of tension into shared comedy. This is the pattern that has defined so much of their public life together. The small revelations. The ordinary frustrations named without cruelty. The ability to laugh at themselves while still taking the underlying connection seriously. It's why so many people continue to feel invested in their story long after the initial novelty of a married co-hosting pair has worn off. What audiences are responding to isn't perfection. It's the ongoing evidence that two people can build a life together without erasing the parts of themselves that sometimes wander. Kelly can still be surprised by Mark's mental detours. Mark can still be caught mid-thought about salmon. And both of them can treat that discovery as material for connection rather than conflict. There's a deeper current running under moments like this. After decades together, the question is no longer whether you will ever stop listening. The question becomes what you do when you notice it happening. Do you pretend everything is fine? Do you let the distance grow? Or do you, like Kelly, simply name it with a mixture of affection and clarity and keep talking anyway? The fact that she can do this on live television, in front of an audience that has followed their story for years, suggests a level of comfort that most people never reach. She trusts that the relationship can hold the truth of its ordinary imperfections. She trusts that Mark can hear her without feeling diminished. And she trusts that the people watching will understand the difference between a genuine problem and the small human friction that comes with sharing a life. In the end, the lunch order confession may be the most telling detail of all. Not because it's funny, though it is, but because of how ordinary it is. Mark wasn't thinking about something dramatic or profound. He wasn't wrestling with a secret or a complicated emotion. He was simply thinking about whether he had made the right choice for lunch. That level of mundanity is what makes the moment feel so real. Long relationships are built on thousands of these small drifts and returns. The mind wanders. Someone notices. Someone names it. Laughter follows. Attention returns. And the conversation continues, slightly richer for having acknowledged the gap. Perhaps that's why this particular exchange stayed with so many people. It wasn't a performance of perfect partnership. It was a brief, unguarded look at the actual work of staying connected, day after day, conversation after conversation, even when one person is still thinking about the salmon. And maybe the reason viewers keep coming back to Kelly and Mark isn't because they never lose each other in the middle of a sentence. It's because when they do, they know how to find their way back without making the detour mean more than it does. They know how to turn the ordinary failure of attention into another chance to say, without saying it directly, I still see you. I still know you. And I'm still here talking even when your mind has already moved on to lunch.